You're listening to Three's a Crowd, the North East Footy Podcast, with Rye for Borough, Steve for Newcastle United, and Ted for Sunderland.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the best podcast going around. Yes, there's thousands and thousands of podcasts, but you're here because this is the best one. All right? Forget Gary Neville. Forget Goldbridge. Forget overlap. All right? We overlap each other when we talk, and that's all you need. Welcome to Three's a Crowd, the only North East football podcast where we bring Newcastle, Middlesbrough, and Sunderland together. We have a bit of banter, a bit of laugh, and we cry a lot if you're a Middlesbrough fan or a Newcastle fan at the moment. But Ted seems to be happy, even though he's just looks like a Minecraft character at the moment. We do apologise. The Cyprus internet is running. The hamster has jumped off the wheel. Well, he's back on the wheel now. So we'll make sure that we try and keep Ted very, very... very astute this morning. We welcome each and every one of you in. We thank you so much for joining us, and thank you so much for the love and support on the podcast over the past couple of weeks. The numbers have been crazy. The comments have been crazy. We do try and get back to them all, but we have a lot of fun coming together as a three musketeers, as you could say. Although I'm not going to lie, lads, I'm not having as much fun as I was in the first half of the season. The second half of the season, I would rather stick chopsticks in my eyes than come on and talk about what's happening in the football world. But Ted, take it away, Ted. You're loving life at the moment. Fantastic result for you again. Last week, you did the nation proud. You did exactly what was needed. But I tell you what, mate, what a game it was for Brian Bobby. And what an aftermath it was for Brian Bobby, let's just say as well. Let's not beat around the bush. He was verbally and racially attacked on the internet, mate, after obviously pushing Romero. And that was sort of, I guess, where the anger came from Spurs fans. They're just generally angry at the moment, but it was a fantastic result for Sunderland, first and foremost. And I loved Regis coming out and saying we were just the better team. And on the flip side of that, the Brian Bobby stuff, just touch on that as a Sunderland fan, mate, and how disgusting that was.
Mate, I'm not, honestly, all due respect, I'm not going to give them the time of day. I'd rather talk about what an absolute tank he is.
Yes.
And yet again, another wonderful performance up front. I thought he was just tremendous. He absolutely clattered two, international standard, world-class standard centre-backs by all accounts. And yeah, he completely owned them. The abuse he got online, yeah, it is disgusting, mate. And it's starting to be too much of a thing again. For my liking, but the Spurs fans have condemned it. Spurs have condemned it. I don't think it is actually Spurs fans. Apparently, it's Argentinian fans that have been the main cause of it, because I believe that I believe that Romero will now miss the World Cup as a result of his injury. Yeah. To be honest, though, if you try and do a dead stop with an absolute welterweight champion bearing down on you, you're going to get it. And to be fair, they rolled around the floor and dived all over all game. Udogie got away with 3 off-the-ball incidents. How that wasn't picked up by VAR, I'll never know. Yeah. They were dirty. I get it that, a struggling team like Spurs, that feels great to say, a struggling team like Spurs will try a bit of the dark arts to try and get a win, but they've got nothing. They've got absolutely nothing. It's just confounded for me that they are going down, because West Ham have a bit more bottle. I'll use the term fight again, but fight in the right context and actually be able to pull out the result. That is the worst Tottenham side I've ever seen, bar none. That is the worst I've ever seen. That was a game where we used to kind of half dread it because they had such a good record up at our place. And down at theirs as well, but we've taken 4 points off them this season, and I'm kind of looking at it going, we should have had another 2 out of that. But that's very unreally. But the performance itself, I thought was excellent. I'm going to dare do it. I am going to dare do it. I thought Luke O'Nien was absolutely superb. I thought he was immaculate all game. The challenge he put in the second half, the tackle he put in was absolutely class. I've criticised him quite openly on here at times for the mistakes he made. And, he does work hard on the mental side of his game as well. And that obviously paid dividends, because he was excellent. With Dan Ballard back fit, it's not actually guaranteed Dan Ballard gets into the first team tomorrow on account of.
I don't know about that, but geez, he played that well.
Regis has already said that it's about the. It's not just about who's available. It's not about the first 11. It's about how form affects players, who step in. And there's obviously a good bit of communication there. I thought Alderete as well, is Cruyff turn on the wing was just something to behold. I was up against Bergwijn, and yeah, mate, I thought he was absolutely superb as well. But yeah, O'Nien, I wouldn't be surprised if he keeps his starting place.
Well, a great coach said this week, Ted. A great coach said this week that the first team isn't selected by the wages they're on.
Who was that?
Sir Eddie Howe. That's right. Yeah.
Oh, no. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's an anagram of Eddie Who. I'm sorry, Steve. I know I'm going to get plenty of Jimmy Hills today because of that lot getting promoted last night. So,
funny enough, I just wanted to say congratulations to Coventry City, who are back in the Premier League. The Sky Blues are on the move with Talbot. It's absolutely great news to welcome Coventry. Mickey Quinn, of course, played for them and banged the goals in, the mighty Quinn, but there's no better legend than Jimmy Hill.
So did Darren Huckabee.
He did, yes, at Coventry City. There he is, and he's got a seat there spare in the back of his car for Ted to get in and go for a drive around the statue of Jimmy Hill. That's what he's going to do.
Yeah, well, let's hope those wheels come off fairly sharpish because I'm not going to congratulate them. I think they're a scum club of scum fans. So that's,
I can't wait. Yeah. I can't wait. 2 games he's going to play them. I hope they get them in the cup as well next season.
Frankie Lampard.
Honestly, Frankie Lampard's not going to be there that long. He's going to find out his level, mate. He'll be gone by Christmas without a doubt. And unless Coventry spend some serious. Thank you. Yes, thanks, Wolf. Unless they spend serious money, they're going to be in trouble. I saw Blackburn actually give them a really, really good game there last night. I did watch it out of morbid curiosity. I did want to see them get beaten, just prolong it a little bit longer, but it wasn't to be. But yeah, no, I can't congratulate them. I dislike the club intensely.
Mate, I think
I've never realised that, but he does actually look like Jimmy Hill.
He does not look like Jimmy Hill. Thank you very much.
I'm
shaving the beard off.
I was going to say he's a distant relative. In that photo there, that is a distant relative of Ted, 100%.
How dare you? How dare you? Distant relative? Calling into question my DNA. You're a distant relative to a criminal?
Just lean out of a car later on and send us a photo. Oh, it's classic. Yes, Coventry.
I used to have a mate called Rye.
To the Premier League last night in fantastic fashion for Middlesbrough fans everywhere. In what has been, lads, I reckon, it's I don't want to put sour notes on it, but it's been a very poor championship season. I mean, to be on the points that they're on, Ipswich Town, you got Southampton who came down, you got Leicester who are going to get double relegated again, which is absolutely incredible. It's been a crazy championship season like they all are, but in terms of points gained, it's one of the lowest point totals you've seen a championship team get promoted. And Ted's absolutely right. I mean, you've seen, I think what Sunderland have done this season has actually written the script for a lot of teams. And if you're not willing to go up and spend the 200 million or whatever it is into your squad to basically say, thanks for the lads who got us here, you're all done. I think you're in for a long time in the Premier League, and unfortunately, it's exactly what needs to be done. And whether Coventry are bearing to do that, I'm not too sure. I mean, Sunderland took the risk, and obviously it could backfire, couldn't it? As well, if you assemble the wrong squad, you spend that amount of money and get it wrong, because not everyone's going to be able to go and get the Brian Bobbies and the Roofs in goal and stuff like that have been absolutely sensational for Sunderland this season. But they have written the script. Can they cut, But anyway, it's the first time to see Coventry City in the Premier League for a long, long time. Moving on to Middlesbrough, shocking loss to Portsmouth in the last kick of the game. Absolutely heartbreaking stuff. I didn't break a monitor. I didn't break anything except my heart, which the club keeps doing. It was a hurtful loss, lads, because it was the last kick of the game. It was a dire old draw. Kim Hellberg, and I've never seen a Swedish man more angry than Kim Hellberg. I actually thought Swedish people were very, very calm, but he is an angry man, swearing excessively in his press conferences, saying that the team that he watched in the first 45 minutes against Portsmouth was like watching paint dry. And also yesterday in his press conference, suggesting that when he came in from taking over from Rob, that he was very surprised to see the club in the position they were. He was second at the time, given the squad that he has, which I think is just an absolute holy kick up the butt to the players he's got, because he's basically said, you've all overachieved and I'm going to, rebuild you in the summer or whatever it's going to mean. I just can't believe it. But it's been a hurtful couple of weeks. I mean, we've just missed Hayden Hackney, lads. I can't stress it enough. I mean, you can't take out the best championship midfielder and not feel it. And I think Middlesbrough have been feeling it. We are dropping like flies. We're down to 5th from 2nd. We've got Ipswich Town tomorrow. But Steve, you were quick into the WhatsApp to stick the knife in my back and hurt me that little bit more. What you saw was a disgrace. I mean, let alone Borough fans, but I mean, it was a horrid game to watch, mate. But then the last kick of the game.
I mean, to be honest, man, I was having a few drinks, so I couldn't believe it. I just genuinely couldn't believe Borough had chucked it away, especially the way results, go at this stage of the season. Oh. And I said to you last week, it was in your hands. You've got to beat Millwall, you've got to beat Ipswich, you've got to beat Southampton, you've got to beat these teams who are around you if you play them. And Borough chucked it away last week, and then of course, we've seen another result this week. Millwall chucking it away. We've seen Middlesbrough's opportunity just slipped through the hands. And I said in the WhatsApp group as well, it's time to do what Sunderland did now for Borough. Yeah. Rest your players. Put your players, into hibernation now. Protect those players who are going to get you into the playoff final and then hopefully into the Premier League. But regrets, it surprised me he's gone on the offensive to the players, because that's the way I read it this week. Yeah. I felt like he'd had a pop, he'd had a go. Pretty much like our manager's done, which we'll come to. But I genuinely think that, he's disappointed. And of course, results reflect more on the manager than they do on the player. The players get away with murder, really. You explained to me as well, I didn't know this, that Matt Targett's now out. And I mean, that's another big blow. You've been blighted with injuries this season, which have affected your promotion campaign. But consistency again, and I think since we started doing this show on radio and now on YouTube, we've each had to put up with that word, like leveled at our teams. Consistency. Sunderland's had it, we've had it at Newcastle, and now Borough's suffering from lack of consistency. And if you don't have that, then you're not going to get anywhere. You're going to have games where people are excited because you're giving false hope, but then because you haven't got the consistency, you're just dropping away. Look, it's not over. But Hellberg's got a hell of a job to try and motivate these players, especially when he's had a pop at them this week, albeit indirectly. You know what I mean?
It was incredible to see, and obviously incredible to watch. I mean, Ted, I wanted to talk to you about this, and I want your scope, I guess, across all three Northeast football teams. What we found this season, especially at Middlesbrough, is that when we've turned to the bench, now, given we're in the championship, and I think we had a poor January window, we were sitting in second, and I don't feel like we went out and recruited to have strong options of the bench. I mean, you look at Coventry and they went and got, Esse on loan, for goodness sake. I mean, Eze. It wasn't, and it was just incredible, like to see Middlesbrough not use that position to then recruit. And I wanted to ask if you feel, as a Sunderland fan, or when you look into Newcastle or Middlesbrough, do we struggle, all three teams, of having depth off the bench? I mean, does anyone? I mean, you look at the Chelseas and the big spenders of the league, but I think Middlesbrough this season, given the injury runs, you look at Newcastle, we'll get onto them very soon, and the woes they're having, where they're leaving Wissa and Walter Marta on the bench. I mean, first off, Sunderland fan, do you feel like you've got a strong bench, probably the strongest you've ever had to be able to go to when the game's not working out in your favour? And how do you see Middlesbrough and Newcastle, specifically because you played Newcastle only a couple of weeks ago?
This is such a good question, mate, because there's two ways you can look at this. You can look in terms of the calibre and reputation of players that you've got on your bench, or you've got the form of the players that you've got on the bench. Now, right now, there's not enough experience to bring up our bench right now at this moment in time. You've still got a few of the young lads who haven't had a start probably in the Championship, let alone in the Premier League. So we're still a little light there, I feel. So that's something that at the end of the season I think will be addressed in terms of bolstering the numbers, depending on where we finish. If we somehow miraculously get a European position, obviously that's a little bit more extra in the pot.
Yeah, not wrong.
We're already 125 million in the black in terms of our spending, so we can actually, excuse the expression, go balls to the wall with the spending again next season.
Yeah.
So I expect that to be rectified in some way, but no, I really don't think we've got enough. Now, that's in terms of experience on the bench. Now, the other flip side of that is what Newcastle have gone through, and I was shocked at this, Steve, when I saw it, was the fact that Walter Marder and Wisser both on the bench with the Sula starting on. But that's where you find yourself at times. We've seen it. Burroughs seen it as well. But isn't it mad that the players that you spend the big money on, sometimes you go, well, I don't know what else to try. We're just going to have to rest them.
It's exactly the same. You're a nail in the head. I mean, you talk about the Asula situation, Ted. We had Cruz Ibe as an 18-year-old striker come on. I mean, Steve, do you feel that Newcastle are struggling? One of the biggest struggles is that Eddie, when he turns to his bench this season, just isn't seeing anyone that he wants to bring?
I mean, we can digest what he said yesterday in his press conference. Players who don't feel like they have a future here won't be getting a game. Well, I mean, who's he pointing that at? Is he pointing that at Wisser and Walter Marder because they're sitting on the bench? Is he pointing at Anthony Gordon because, he's been linked with a move away this week? But, so is Tonali, so is Tino Livramento. I think we'll learn a lot more from Eddie's team selection today about who he was referring to. Starting Asula last week against Crystal Palace, I don't think it was the daftest of ideas. I mean, the kids, obviously impressing him in training, and that was Eddie's excuse. Wisser and Walter Marder weren't doing it in training, so he picks his team judged on that. I think there's a lot made of Newcastle having a 3-week break. I think a lot of people were saying that 3 weeks, break. Eddie's been saying he needs to work with the players, and that's going to change our fortunes. Well, that's rubbish. It was never going to do that. It's an international break, for God's sake. Yeah. We had, we had 6 players there for the first 10 days. 6 players. So that's not going to be conducive to finding the recipe for success. So he worked with the full 20-man squad, more or less, for 6 days. 6 days. And they're all coming back from international duty. Some will have niggles. Some of them are going to need to have a bit of a rest because they played a lot of international football. And you're not going to change the problems of a season in 6 days, I'm afraid. There's a hell of a lot going on. There's a hell of a lot of issues. I was saying to you before we came on air, right, that, if we finished 8th this season, which is an outside possibility, then got Conference League. Historically, this season would actually be looked back by fans as something which wasn't a bad season. We got Europe, albeit not one of the top-tier European competitions. Yeah. And we've got to the last 16 of the Champions League, got the semi-finals of the Cup, and we've got the 5th round of the FA Cup. People would look through rose-tinted glasses and say that wasn't a bad season. But we all know at this moment in time, it just hasn't been good enough. I talk about this every day, and you get lots of opinions, lots of people's opinions. It's still the nuts and bolts of the problem at Newcastle United are very simple. We had our best striker taken from us at the start of the season for a handsome fee, and we didn't replace him. And I don't understand why people suddenly think, after the season we've had, that in these last 6 games, we're suddenly going to start scoring 3 or 4 goals and everything's going to be all right. You're living in cloud cuckoo land. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. The best you can hope for over the next 6 games is a bit of graft from players who deserve to graft, because it should be grafting for the wages they're on, and should be trying to put it right for the supporters who spent their hard-earned cash going all over the world and up and down the country, for a little return. That's what they should be doing. They shouldn't be thinking about where they're going to be next season. They should be honouring their contract and putting some bloody effort in. So, the best we can hope for over the next 6 games is some scrappy wins. Hopefully starting with today against a Bournemouth team who have been fantastic. They're unbeaten in 12 games. But again, who you would imagine would be slightly affected by the fact that the manager's announced he's leaving at the end of the season.
Yeah.
So their dressing room, you would imagine, is going to be certainly in a little bit of turmoil, because they'll be thinking, well, hold on a minute, what do we do next season? Who's coming in? Now they know who's coming in. A lot of them will be doing what I did. They'll be Googling them, because I've never heard of them. The only people with a surname Rose I know is a lead singer of a heavy metal band and a cricketer, and a female serial killer, although that's not her surname. So for me, I'm thinking, Rose, who the hell is this? So that's going to cause maybe a little bit of controversy in the dressing room, I would imagine. It's just a bizarre scenario.
Yeah.
And you're looking at these 3 games and you're going, Christ almighty, Bournemouth, Arsenal away, Brighton at home. Awful, awful, awful fixtures. Games we don't win. Games we can't do anything about it. And you know what? In the first 4 years of Eddie's time on Tyneside, you would have looked at that and says, I will find a way. Eddie always finds a way. Everyone's shaking their heads going, I just don't see how he's going to find a way. So, sorry to be depressing for Newcastle fans out there and probably cheering a load of Sunderland fans up, but it's the truth. It's the fact.
No.
It's a fact.
It's incredible. Obviously, he's going back to his old team in Bournemouth as well. Do you know what I mean? And they're on the cusp of now finding the new manager. They've already, announced that Marco Rose will be replacing Areola. Where Areola goes, we're not too sure. Obviously, maybe rumours to Spain. But, I mean, Newcastle will be going in today wondering, what their team's going to look like and what type of results you're going to get. And Middlesbrough doing the same.
I think he played with it today. I mean, listening to his presser yesterday.
Doesn't put him on wages.
Wissa looked the best he's looked in training this week. That could be a sign that Wissa's going to start.
Wow.
Who knows? You can never double guess, Eddie. What's he do with Tino? Tino's been bloody awful. Every game he's made a mistake since he came back, and it resulted in goals. Arguing with Graham Jones on the sideline last week, apparently, which I didn't see, but has been well reported. What happens? Eddie's gonna really announce to the world who he blames, I guess, for maybe a little bit of unrest in the dressing room today. It's gonna be fascinating.
Do you think it was a defiance press conference yesterday, stating that he's still got the fire, and he's obviously got the enough wood to keep the fire burning. I thought that was interesting, but he's had his fair share of criticism over the past couple of weeks, and obviously rightly so with the way what Newcastle would be trying to achieve. Do you think it was a defiant stand yesterday?
It certainly was. The written press came out and more or less said that's what it should have been like last week. You lost the derby, the second derby against Sunderland. You should have come out fighting last week, but he didn't. Everyone said he was quite subdued and, almost depressed in that press conference last week. And then, of course, we get beat off Palace. So yesterday, he did come out all guns blazing, pointing a few fingers in defensive of his job and saying that, he still had fire in his belly. And that seemed to go down well with the press. The press was saying that's what we wanted to see. That's all we really want. So Eddie's had a poker face for 4.5, 5 years. This is the first time we've seen the guard drop, and it's good to see. But that needs to be transmitted into the players, and I'm not sure it'll happen. Gordon last week against Palace tiptoed through that game. He's done that all season, man. He's done it all season, and then he sits there getting interviewed before the England game in the international break, telling everyone he's had a great season. He scored 17 goals. You've scored goals against teams. Me, Ted, and Rye could score goals against Anthony, and the goals you've scored are bloody penalties, man. They're not bloody goals. Jesus. You know, we at the start of the season, we sat on here and I was criticising Newcastle's wingers. We couldn't create a bloody thing. We couldn't create a thing. But then it became more and more obvious, you know, you need to play Walter Marder up front. He scored nearly, you know, what was it, 8 or 9 goals quite quickly.
Yeah.
You know, leave him there. Bloody leave him there. But, you know, now he's reverted him to a midfield player. It's just so frustrating. You know, we're all managers. We're all managers when we're sitting in the stands.
Yeah, we are.
But it's just so disappointing. And like a lot of Newcastle fans, you just want this season to end. You know, I can't wait till I'm standing at Fulham at the you know, that last game of the season and putting this season to bed, because I've just felt like it's been a season-long moan. It's been a moan-a-thon at Newcastle. We haven't had that since Steve Bruce. I haven't had that since Steve Bruce, and that's how bad it's been.
That's incredible to say. Obviously, starting off as well, Teddy boy, when we first started the show this season, I mean, we had just gotten that. We started off with Isaac, obviously, and the move and the behavior of all that. I mean, it's just been incredible to watch. But on the flip side of that, we were sitting here going, "Wow, you've just signed Xhaka and the likes, and what a season it's turned out to be for Sunderland, mate." And obviously, with 6 games to go, the manager merry-go-round in full swing. Now, I'm not starting any rumours, Craig Hope or anyone, just calm down. But Regis Lebris would have to be at the top of the list, I would think, for a lot of bigger, and I mean no disrespect, Sunderland, Champions League teams. I mean, what he has created at Sunderland. I mean, I have not seen a manager in. I mean, somebody can probably do the stats. When was the last time a manager in his first season got promoted from the Championship, one of the toughest leagues to get out of, and in his second one, is pushing for a European spot in the Premier League? I mean, is there any worries on the Sunderland fan? I mean, you look at Bournemouth, who just came out of nowhere this week and had Areola walking. I mean, God knows what other managers. We got Liam Rosenthal, Waratah, who's going to at Chelsea. Do you know what I mean? But these are the types of teams that could come in and say, look, we want what Sunderland's got. And I mean, we've seen the rumours for your players, but have you got any concerns with Regis?
I mean, he's contracted until 2028 as it stands at this moment in time. So we'd be due some hefty compensation.
Yeah.
It's the good thing that we've got at Sunderland is we've got a situation where it's not just about who the manager is. It's about the whole setup of the club that's gone under massive surgery, and I mean huge surgery as well. It's you're talking about the scouting, you're talking about the first team coaches, you're talking about the sport director. It's a massive overhaul. Yes, of course, it's a concern because I love the way that Regis talks about his football, about the club, about connection. And that's the key word he'll always bang on about it, is connection. When people are coming back from injuries, right, great, they're fit, but they're not fully connected with the squad yet, so we're going to bide our time with it. And it's about, like, sort of, he mentioned, I'll give you an example. He was talking about Brian Brobby, saying that, great, he's like a tank. The next thing that we're going to work on is making that little bit more clinical. And one of the things he said that, like, what he really liked about, the players are starting to understand a bit more about Brian Brobby, so that we start to play the blind pass into him and know that he's going to be in that area. Now, that's fantastic coaching, to be able to recognise that and go, we don't have to coach this. They know where he's going to be. And it's things like, of course, it's a concern. He's the best manager we've had. Yeah, in decades. You'd have to go back to Peter Reid for this sort of level of excitement about how the team's doing. Peter Reid obviously masterminded us to 2 7th-place finishes in the Premier League, and Regis is out there and battling to give us the same kind of thing. It would be a massive, massive disappointment, and I would love to see him sign a new contract. Of course, I would. But nobody stays around forever. And I was talking about this at work. Just the likes of Monaco, the likes of Marseille, even maybe PSG. Well, I've got to be looking at somebody like him, a French speaker, to come in and develop young talent, as well as not having to spend massive amount of money.
I'm even thinking French national team, depending on their World Cup performance. Do you know what I mean? Like it's the levels, I think, as well. I mean, it's interesting as well because we've got one side where we've got Newcastle fans probably are getting irate and they're over the Eddie Howe. We've got Sunderland on the other hand, who are absolutely in love with Regis and wanting to stay forever. And I'm in the middle where we've got Kim Hellberg, who's a brand new manager, and I love him. I think he's fantastic, but he's struggling with injuries and he's struggling with performances on the pitch. Now, Kim Hellberg, in his time of management, has never lost, I think it's 6 in a row or 5 in a row, and he's on the cusp of doing that for the first time ever if they were to lose tomorrow at Portman Road. I mean, and I think Kim Hellberg tactically is a genius. I think he is a fantastic man manager. I think he speaks fantastically. And one thing that sticks out to me, though, is with this season especially, I think is Gareth Bale said this on a podcast recently, and it stuck out to me, was that when he was at Real Madrid and they had the likes of coaches coming in and, you know, left, right, and center. Obviously, Real Madrid, if they're not working, they're not working. But he said the best manager they had was one that would come in and would just let them play football. They know what they're doing. They've got the reason they're there. And I feel like at Middlesbrough as well this season, you know, we've been maybe at the cusp of trying to play the style of Kim Hellberg, but we haven't got the playing group to do that. And I think we've sort of struggled. Or this playing group, I think, has struggled more so. And it's no shock because this team was built around Rob Edwards. I mean, it was with a Rob Edwards type of style football with the back five in mind. And then quickly, all of a sudden, that was out the window when Kim Hellberg's got a new style. Now, whether recruitment would have changed their minds at Borough at the start of the season or even in January, knowing, you know, trying to build it around Kim Hellberg, who knows? But I think Middlesbrough fans, I love what Kim's doing. I think we've got 4 more games to see where we're at. And I think that going into the playoffs now, I think we should all be agreeing, I think we'll be interesting. I think it'll be better for Kim Hellberg. And I don't think he's going to leave in the summer, nor do I think he'll get sacked or anything like that. But I think we do need to now, again, sadly, change our direction when it comes to, recruitment again, because it's incredible. And like you said, Ryan, in the chat as well, looking at the stats, you have the shots and the XG or whatever you want to do. The stats show that Middlesbrough are dominating every game. But unfortunately, you can dominate the stats, but if you're not getting the results, it's not going to matter, is it? Do you know what I mean? I can pass to Ted, 1,000 times and we can get the best passing stats in the world. But if we're not doing anything with it at the end of the day, then that's where it's at. And unfortunately, we need to start scoring goals, and it's going to be very interesting. Lads, we've gone over the halfway point of the show. We've had a bit of a talk about the likes of Newcastle, where they're at, Middlesbrough, where they're at, and Sunderland, how happily loved land they are in. We're going to take a bit of a break because it's time for Troll of the Week.
And Manchester police are on the hunt for a drag queen who robbed a local store. They say he's a local man with a Wigan address. And breaking news, the man who invented predictive text has died. May he rust in piss. Domino's are at it again. We've delivered 326,870 pizzas since Spurs last won a game.
And Steve Bruce ordered half of them.
Following on from last week's Freddie Mercury, lads. Freddie Mercury, this is brilliant. Freddie Mercury. Is this the real love? Easy come, easy dough. Put a bun against his bread. Nothing really matters. Very good. Thank you for that. Lookalikes, Jacob Morphy. And Mike Dyson. Love that.
That's good. That's good.
And what were they doing in space, guys? Looking for a ball, apparently. What's that? It's Chris Waddle's 1990 penalty kick. Or should that be penalty kick? I can't say penalty correctly, can I? Yeah. Never forget this guy who brought a sign to the Stevie Wonder concert. And thanks to Ted for this one.
Oh, well done, Ted.
Mind
looking after him.
Normal heartbeat of a football fan, a deceased heartbeat, and a watching Newcastle United heartbeat. And this is what it looks like when something goes in one ear and out of the other.
Wow.
And attention, can the man who left his 5 kids at the King Power Stadium please come and pick them up? They're beating the first team 3-1. I asked AI to create an action figure of Katie Price, and this is what it made.
Wow.
Jesus Christ.
And when you want to sell jewellery but you don't have a model, this is the best way to do it, lads.
That's the last time I buy anything off Temu.
R.I.P. Clint, although I feel like loved one should have used a different florist.
Oh my God.
And it's a sign of the times, lads.
Well,
You're not wrong.
Liverpool have got the 2 strikers who have legs made of Watsons. And we'll finish off with this one. I worked as a steward at the Stadium of Light on Sunday. The Spurs fans were trying to sneak projectile missiles into the stadium. But thanks to our vigilance, we were able to catch the culprits and confiscate their weapons. We have put the proceeds to a good cause as promised. Season 25-26. Spurs will be relegated.
okay, what's back?
If you've got any tweets, send them to me, Ted or Rye, on our usual socials, and we'll get what happened to.
Always a bloody good laugh, that. I tell you what, troll of the week. Absolutely fantastic. It's going to be incredible to see, obviously, 4 games to go for Middlesbrough, 6 each apiece for Newcastle. Welcome back, obviously, to 3 is a Crowd, the only Northeast football podcast where we bring the 3 Northeast teams together for a bit of banter, a bit of laugh, a bit of pain as the season is coming to an end. It feels like yesterday, lads, we were starting off 3 is a Crowd again for season 25-26, and we've only got a handful of games left. I cannot believe
35 shows this season.
Oh, it's incredible, isn't it? Wow. It's incredible. World Cup.
And some of them you turned up for.
I mean, I was here for at least 3 of them that I can remember. I mean, you're lucky I'm here today, the way Middlesbrough are going as well. So it's going to be absolutely incredible. We've got to talk, obviously, about the games today. We've got Newcastle taking on Bournemouth today. And then tomorrow, Ipswich Town will be hosting Middlesbrough at Portman Road. And then Aston Villa are hosting Sunderland. We will cover them as well. And we'll get Steve's thoughts about Newcastle. But, lads, I just wanted to talk to you quickly and about VAR. VAR has been proposed now to come into the championship. They are looking at alternatives and how it's going to be cost effective. We have spoken about this bloody many a time, but it does look like it's on the cusp now of coming to the championship. There will be trialled at certain stadiums. You got the likes of Lincoln City and stuff like that now coming up to the championship, Teddy boy. I mean, VAR in the championship, I, for one, we've been on my fair share of decisions this season, mate, which I've been irate with. Don't forget me wrong, but then we've been on the back of somewhere. Wow, we got lucky there. Do you know what I mean? And it's just human error. Mm-hmm. There's nothing else. There's no other technology. But finally, they're now saying due to the stakes that are in the championship in terms of the money for promotion and stuff like that, that it's a necessity. It's a necessity to have now in the championship. Do you believe VAR in the championship is a must?
Well, if they're going to use it in the playoff final for the championship, then you've kind of got to use it everywhere else. You can't, just because it is a massive occasion. It's a massive amount of money at stake. It's a place in the Premier League. So yeah, I understand why VAR is in place there. And as a Sunderland fan, I'll straight up hold my hands up and say it rescued us as well. That second Sheffield United goal wouldn't have been ruled out under normal circumstances. And I don't think we would have come back from 2-0 down, if I'm being brutally honest with you. Having said that, watching that game last night, and despite Coventry getting promoted, I actually enjoyed the game. And I enjoyed the fact that it was free-flowing. Yeah, there was a couple of ones where I thought, oh, was that? And kind of, I enjoyed the free-flowing nature of it. Obviously, we've had some, the penalty decision getting overturned against Spurs at the weekend. Great VAR decision that we can cheer, that we can get behind. It was sorted out pretty quickly and all done and dusted. Where I take exception, though, is like sort of 4 and 5 minutes to reach a decision. If it's that close, it ain't worth having VAR for me. So honestly, I would like to see the Championship stay without it. Like I say, it was really nice and refreshing to watch a game of football without all the stoppages and all that kind of thing. It was like watching real football again. Not that I'm saying the Premier League isn't real football, just for the good of the fans and for the good of the game, seeing that flow back, it was really nice. I say keep the Championship free of it.
It's going to be very interesting to see, and it's going to need a lot of club signatures to sign off on it, but it is a promise now that EFL are looking into it, especially the Championship, that VAR is intending to come to the Championship in the next couple of seasons, if not next season. Steve, big game on the horizon, mate, for you and your lads. Newcastle today, the only Northeast team to play today, both Middlesbrough, Sunderland tomorrow. So all eyes on Newcastle United if you're in the Northeast. At home to Bournemouth, mate. Eddie Howe's old mob. We saw a defiant Eddie Howe in his press conference yesterday. We spoke about that in the first half of the show, mate. But obviously, all eyes now on getting a result at Bournemouth. And I think a result today would mean just so much to everyone involved at Newcastle, mate. I mean, you're coming on the back now of 2 losses in the last 2 games, obviously. How are you feeling heading to Eddie Howe's old mob? And like you said, they've got some manager woes themselves.
Yeah, I mean, it's a home game, Brian. Newcastle are at home, so it's a bit, it's a bit of a poison chalice at the minute for Eddie and the lads, because if the performance is as bad as recent games, the atmosphere is going to be toxic. There's no doubt about it. People will not take another defeat today. So Newcastle need to find a way to win, whether it's a scrappy win, whatever. They need to find a way to win. They were heavily criticised for doing what they've done since Eddie, took over as manager, which is walk around the pitch at the end of a game and fans are coming. It's not a lap of honour. It's a lap of thank you. That's what they've done. They've done it since Eddie went in. I think it was important. I do think it was important when we were battling to stay in the Premier League. It was a togetherness. It was getting the fans on side. Yeah. But when things start to go wrong, that can be misconstrued and can be detrimental to the morale and the connection between the players and the crowd. So I think there needs to be a rethink. I hope there's been a rethink if the worst happens today. Similar, and I've said this. I said this probably on this show many times after taking the photo at Sunderland. The dressing room photos needed to stop. It was a one-off dressing room photo is great, and fair enough. You record a huge win, a big win, a monumental win, like winning the Carabao Cup, then great. There's a reason for doing it.
There's a trophy there.
There's a trophy, yeah. But don't do it after you win every bloody game, man. Whose idea was that? And I've said stop it. And, they're not going to listen to me, but surely they must read the social media, whoever's on there, and say, you don't think this is a good idea, And of course, it came back to bite one on the arse at Sunderland this season, and rightly so. Sunderland beat us and said, right, let's get back and do it. Luke O'Neill was obviously the instigator and said, look, let's go and take the piss out of the Geordies, and fair play to him for doing it. That's what we need. We need a bit of common sense, but. It's a bloody tough game. It really is. Newcastle against Bournemouth must have Eddie Howe sweating this week because he's never beaten them in the Premier League. Never won a Premier League game against Bournemouth. Let that sink in. Yeah. He has beaten Bournemouth at St James's Park in the Carabao Cup, and he's beaten them in the FA Cup. But we're winless in all 7 home or away Premier League meetings to date. We've drawn 5. We've lost the other 2. I mentioned earlier, since we beat them in the FA Cup on penalties, it has to be said, in January, Bournemouth are unbeaten in 11 fixtures. And Saturday will be Bournemouth's first game, obviously, since the manager announced that he won't be renewing his contract at the end of the season. I've got to give a special mention to the show races and the red card activity that's taking place before the game. Andy Cole, former Newcastle player, and Tony Cunningham are going to be on the pitch to celebrate the unveiling of a banner. And there is going to be, I think this happened at Middlesbrough recently, there's going to be a War Flags banner with Howard Gale, Tony Cunningham, Mirandina, Franz Carr, Justin Fashanu, Rule Fox, Les Ferdinand, Shaka Hislop, Tino Aspria, John Barnes, and Andy Cole on there. So it's great. It's 30 years of show racism, the red card, and just a special well done and thank you to everybody who's involved in that. We have had some good news. Bruno Guimaraes is back in training and could feature today. He's missed the last 12 games for Newcastle United, and we've only picked up 6 Premier League points from a possible 18 without him. The bad news, of course, is that after last week's game, Joe Linton's now suspended for 2 matches after he got a yellow card. No Fabian Shaw, he's had another operation, so he's out for another three and a half weeks. Emil Kraft is obviously out for the rest of the season. They're missing Clivert, they're missing Lewis Cook, they're missing Julio Sola. I think there's a doubt as well. But yeah, they come with their tails up, and that's a big worry for us. The only blessing for us is that Irola has decided not to renew his contract. That could have some kind of effect. But yeah, this is an out of the frying pan into the fire moment. And Sunderland weren't great. Crystal Palace were worse than Sunderland, I felt, last week. We didn't beat either of them. We got beat off both of them home and away. So you can see why I'm not confident about going into this fixture.
Yeah, I honestly am worried. I mean, I don't know what the reaction is going to be from the Bournemouth players. Obviously, who would know what it's like in there? Was it something they were already aware of? Was it something that's going to spur them on? Was it something that's going to say, right, let's send him off in the good light? But Teddy boy, I mean, Newcastle desperately need to start showing some form and start, getting some results on the board. More importantly, mate, to secure any sort of European football. And I think without European football, it's going to be, I mean, we've seen the rumours already this week, mate, with the likes of Gordon, potentially wanting to move away and stuff like that. Without European football at Newcastle United next season, it could mean the end of a lot of European wanting to play in European football.
Honestly, bluntly speaking, I don't think Anthony Gordon would be a miss. I think Newcastle could put the money that would generate to really good use. Take a leaf out of Bournemouth's book. They lost Semenyo and replaced him with a very, very good player in young Ryan, who's just filled that space absolutely beautifully. So I honestly don't think Newcastle would miss Anthony Gordon all that much if he did get sold. The rumours are Bayern Munich taking a look for him to link up with Harry Kane. If that's the case, that's the case. I'm a big believer that if a player isn't trying, and this is just my view, I'm looking at this purely from a red and white perspective, but it just doesn't look like Anthony Gordon's trying, and that would really, really, it would hack me off, Steve, as a fan. I've seen it from Sunderland players in the past. Of course, I have. The Jack Rodwells of this world who just don't bother. There's no application there, and when I look at the difference between that and the likes of, all right, we've got Chris Rigg playing wide right at this moment in time, who's tracking back and putting tackles in, and that's what you want. You just don't get that from Gordon. And honestly, it wouldn't be the end of the world. Cup.
It's blatantly obvious. That's what he's doing. He's done it all season. He's done it all season.
It's so bad.
It's the old shop window thing. That's exactly what it stinks of. I mean, it's possibly one of the worst teams to go like, right, we need to sort this out. We need to stop the rot. And then you look at the fixtures and go, Bournemouth, really? They're having a great season. The record against you is there as well. Like I said, they've recruited so well. I mean, they replaced their back four completely. The back four was kind of obliterated, all sold off at top prices, mind you. They beat us to the sign of Diakite, the centre back. They got the goalkeeper from Chelsea as well as Petrovic. I don't understand why Chelsea sold him, because Petrovic is 10 times better than the keeper that they've got right now. He is a really, really solid keeper. Thankfully, we've got Roofs and the rest is history, of course. But listen, Bournemouth are a good outfit. Having said that, I just think the announcement from Iraola will be playing on a few of their minds. Like you say, Steve, well, there's that little bit of uncertainty starts and creeps in now. We saw it with Liverpool when Klopp announced he was calling it a day with Liverpool. They had that wobbly phase just as that announcement was made. personally, I think it's a bit of a strange one. It could have maybe been 2 or 3 weeks before the end of the season, not right now. It just seems to be a little bit bad timing. I think there's enough there to get a result for both teams. I'm personally going to go for a draw. I think a 1-1 draw, and I think that would suit Newcastle. I think stopping the rot and getting a point against a good side like Bournemouth is actually just a good building block for this, for like a mini season. These 6 games are essentially a mini season for us all now. So yeah, I think a point there would be just a good building block to kind of address a few things, and maybe just start look to shake things up. If Eddie Howe and the powers that be know the players that probably will be heading out the door, well, let's give some of the give some of the youngsters a shot, maybe, and just see what happens with it.
I mean, he's already doing that through Asula, isn't he? Steve, a prediction, mate?
Yeah, I've gone 1-1 on my podcast this week. I think if there's going to be a winner, it'll be Bournemouth, but I'm going to go for 1-1 as well. And, I do agree with Ted. It does stop the rot, and, it gives us something to build on going into the game against Arsenal, whose backsides are going again. It has to be said in the title race, so anything could happen with them. And what depending on what happens this weekend, they could be on the crest of the slump when we play them. So, part of you just wants to see that like old Eddie Howe Newcastle United again. Newcastle to win today by 2-1 and go to the Emirates with something like to play for. Results suddenly go your way again. You're thinking, okay, well we could get a draw down there and then beat Brighton at home. We're back in it. But that's but we've been through so many false dawns this season as Newcastle fans. I'm not getting carried away, so I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw.
It's the hope that kills you, isn't it? When it comes to football, it's the hope that kills you. I'm going for a 0-0. I think it's going to be just a stalemate. I think both teams will be one. On the other hand, we've got Eddie Howe and he's battling, and then you've got Bournemouth with their managerial search and coach replacement. I think it's just going to be a 0-0 today. Let's move on quickly because we're running out of time. Middlesbrough are heading to Portman Road in what is going to be, I think, the battle for the last position in the top 2. You've also got Southampton and Millwall in the mix. But this one is massive. We have been looking at this one for a couple of months, Middlesbrough fans, going to Ipswich Town. And if we are able to get anything from this game, then it can lock us in again for that battle for the second spot. Coventry City have locked up at least one of them. There is one other up for grabs, and we are battling, obviously, some powerhouses in Ipswich Town and Southampton who have obviously found some crazy form in recent weeks, and they are going to be very, very tough to pip. But it starts with Ipswich, and all we can do is control what we can. And we have to start off with a massive performance tomorrow at Portman Road. Not an easy place to bloody do it. Middlesbrough look like they may be without the likes of Morgan Whittaker again, Hayden Hackney. We have got Matt Targett, who has got broken metatarsals, I believe. It's incredible. He's been playing with broken bones in his foot, and he's been trying to push through the vein, but he can't do it. Bangura will be likely out as well. So where Middlesbrough can find some salvation, Sammy Silvera, the Australian, he'll be back in, and hopefully creating some chances maybe down on that left wing back if that was where he would be starting. I think he might be. You might look to see if there's a surprise package in Hackney or Morgan Whittaker returning, Kim Hellberg not being drawn or giving anything away. Lads, this is a midday kickoff tomorrow on a Sunday. Ipswich Town, who are in second, Middlesbrough now in fifth. Teddy boy, I'll come to you, mate. After what I saw at Portsmouth, mate, I'm not confident, but I got to believe. I love my club, and I am going to back them till the day that I die, whether I believe, what's happening or, I feel like there's some, I don't know what it is, but there's some sort of either football curse or something against us at the moment in not scoring a goal with the amount of chances we're creating. But I tell you what, mate, if there's any game to lift, it's against Premier League opponents in Ipswich Town.
I've backed you and backed you and backed you this season and said, and I just feel like the Portsmouth game was that one bit too far. You're going to finish in the playoffs. I still think you'll go up. I really do still think you'll go up. I just think Borough will find a way right at the death, like what we did, just to find a way through it. Having said that, I can't see you getting a single point out of this, mate. I really can't. And I've backed you to win nearly every week. I know. You know I have. The regulars who watch the show all know that as well. I just think Ipswich have got a little bit too much, and it's written in the stars that Dan Neil is going to do the business against you. You know, that's Freeze sending off that should never have been. I just feel that the likes of Jack Clark and Dan Neil will be kind of like, you know, nudging each other, going, "Oh, we can turn it on here." And I think that will, mate. I can honestly see a 2-0 win for Ipswich. I just think going forward, they've got that little bit too much right now.
Steve, coming to you, mate. Middlesbrough on their way to Portman Road.
Yeah, I think I could see you scoring, but I think Ipswich will be too good for you tomorrow. So I'm going to go for a 2-1 win for Ipswich.
I'm going to go for a cheeky 1-0 win to the Borough. I think we're going to dig our heels in and something sort of miraculous IKEA god is looking over us and some sort of Swedish miracle is going to happen. That's all I can pray for. We've got to go on to Sunderland. They play tomorrow. They are travelling down to Aston Villa. Ted, tough opponents in Aston Villa, obviously. But as someone has just put in the chat, if Newcastle don't win today and Sunderland win tomorrow, puts you 7 points ahead with only 5 games to go. Incredible season that Sunderland are doing. And it's just, it boggles the mind what the job. And
Rob,
we've spoken about this.
Calm down, Rob. Calm down.
We've spoken about this at great lengths, but Sunderland in 10th look like they're pushing for European spot, but it comes at at pushing teams like Aston Villa, who are sitting in 4th all the way. And it's going to be a tough test tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, it's a completely different Aston Villa to what we played at the start of the season.
Yeah.
Although I would settle for the same sort of result again. We managed to eke out a 0-0 draw with them, if you remember at the start of the season. We played most of that game with 10 men as well. So, you know, after that, Villa started to turn their form around. So, yeah, we're going to see a different side of them, absolutely for sure. But we've got a few things to bear in mind with what Villa are actually doing right now. They're very safe and secure in European positions right now. They've also got a semi-final with Nottingham Forest coming up in Europe. Yep. So, you know, you might just catch them a little cold. They've got one eye on Europe 100% because if they win that final, and to be fair, Villa are actually the best team left in that competition in Europe. They win that competition, they're in the Champions League anyway. And I think that is their best route to Champions League football this season. So for me, I just think it depends on where Villa's priorities and where their headspace is at, as to what kind of Aston Villa shows up. I think, you know, I don't think Regis will be bothered about anything I've just said. I think Regis will set the side up to do what Sunderland do and kind of, you know, be pragmatic, low block, keep defensively as solid as possible. Listen, I'd take a draw all day, and that's what I'm hoping for, to be honest. I can't see us winning it. And if Villa turn up to the Villa that we know they can, we could be in danger as well and get beat. However, I think all things balancing out, the way the Villa are right now, the way our squad's looking, getting players back from injury all the time, I think a 1-each draw would be fine for us.
Wow, I actually put you down for a 1-0 win. I just think you absolutely bossed it last week. I think Brian Bobby's found the form. I think you'd be buoyed on. And I just think Aston Villa, like you said, have got one eye on this Europa League, semi-final, which obviously is 2 games away. They play Fulham away. But I just honestly think they've taken their foot off, and we can see it in the recent results. And I think that Aston Villa have proven over the past couple of seasons that they're not a team to do it in every league. It's either one league or nothing. And I think they're struggling for the depth, like we've spoken about as well. And I honestly think Sunderland can get a result today. Steve, over to you, mate. Aston Villa v Sunderland.
I think Sunderland will lose. I think Sunderland will get beat 2-0. I think Aston Villa will be looking at Liverpool over the shoulder. I think that Liverpool are 3 points behind. They've got nothing to play for now other than finishing as high up the Premier League as they can. And it's very tight in those top 4 positions. So I think differently to you guys, I think that Villa will come out all guns blazing. You've got to they'll catch you early. If you can nullify that first 20 minutes, which is when Villa are strong, I think maybe you'll get the result you're hoping for, like, a draw. Sunderland won't win, I don't think, but I think, I think Villa will come out quick. I think they'll get 2 early goals, and I think it'll be a 2-0 win for Villa. It's
going to be very, very interesting.
I can't remember the last time where we've all gone for different results.
I know. It's actually
that's very, very unusual for us. Like,
yeah, it definitely is.
It's incredible to see. I mean, it's the tale of this season, isn't it? I mean, anything can happen. I mean, and I think we found it. There's no Ferrari, is there? I mean, I think that's what we want in football, is that any team can win on their day. I mean, Middlesbrough can certainly lose on their day, and we're finding that Newcastle and Sunderland, I can do it as well. But the best thing about football is that we can get some amazing results, and especially in the Premier League, that money isn't buying the success that we've seen in years gone by. It's an even league, and any team can rock up and get a result. And I think Sunderland can do that tomorrow against Aston Villa. And I think obviously you could see Newcastle getting a result today against Bournemouth. Maybe Middlesbrough rock up to Portman Road and get a result. Who knows? Only the gods of football know, and hopefully they look after each and every one of us. If you are going to the football this weekend, please travel safe. Newcastle fans, enjoy your day at St. James's Park against Bournemouth. You've got today's kickoff. Middlesbrough fans, Sunderland fans, you'll be waiting till tomorrow. Middlesbrough fans, safe journey down to Portman Road, and Sunderland fans, safe journey over to Aston Villa. Teddy boy, thank you so much, as always, for joining me. Steve Wraith as well, thank you so much for joining me. Guys, we've discussed Newcastle, Middlesbrough and Sunderland to an hour's content. We hope we have enlightened you, fulfilled you with joy, and made you a little bit happier, especially if you're a Middlesbrough fan. Maybe if you're a Newcastle fan. Sunderland fans, I'm not giving you anything. You guys suck. All right, you're too high in the table and you're doing too well. All right. I love each and every one of you. Take safe in this crazy world of ours. We will see you all next week to dissect what has happened in a week's football in the Northeast. It is Three's a Crowd, the only Northeast football podcast. We will see you all this time next week.
Three's a Crowd podcast will return. That's not a threat, it's a promise.